Okay, welcome to Straight from the Strip, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm your host, Minty, and I'm joined by Gianni, the Greek gambler. Hi, Gianni. How are you?
Never better, baby. God bless America. We got two fight cards to talk about over a couple days. Doesn't get better than this.
Not much. If only we could get some really good news about college football, then maybe I would be over the moon like you.
True.
Gianni, you are right. This is an exciting week. Lots of fights. And I need you. We've talked about this before on the show. I don't know a lot about UFC. Everything I've basically learned about UFC has been from you. So I'm going to expect you to carry the show. I'm going to chime in when I have questions. I'm also going to be in the chat. If you guys have questions, please drop them and I will get them to Gianni. Sorry, Minty, for trying to steal your thunder. Take it away.
It's okay. I was just going to introduce you that you're back because you were gone last week. So welcome back, Kelly. We missed you.
Thank you. Why my computer's now playing music, I don't know.
Oh my God, it's okay. We can't hear it. So we've got a lot to cover this episode. Oh my God, Kelly, Jesus. We've got a lot to cover this episode since we have two UFC fight nights this week. One tonight, Wednesday, May 13th, and one Saturday, May 16th, both taking place in Jacksonville, Florida. But first, let's really quick go over the past weekend's UFC 249. I personally thought it was such a successful event. I mean, without fans, I really didn't care that much, and I thought it was a little more peaceful to watch. I'm sure fighters would have preferred a live audience and that energy. But Kelly, what were your thoughts on UFC 249?
I was very pleasantly surprised with how well it turned out. I know that we had some initial issues, obviously having one fighter testing positive for coronavirus. So I was going, oh God. You know, sometimes like when it rains, it pours, and I was a little nervous about whether or not these fights were going to go on. We had Brett Okamoto on from ESPN on the Kelly and Murray show. He said, don't worry, this is going to be okay. Dana is going to do everything in his power. And that's what he did. And I have to give kudos to Dana White. He absolutely killed it. He did it the right way. Everybody was safe. Everybody was quarantined. And the fights were incredible. Now, basically, we're just going to put this out there. By the time the late night fights came around, I had several cocktails. So I was
tired.
I was watching in and watching out. The early fights were hilarious, and I still cannot pronounce his name. But I remember texting you that I thought you said you like one side, I like the other. I go, that's probably right. Minty's going to get knocked out in the first round, and sure enough, is it Rosenstruck? Is that how you say it, Johnny?
Yep. Yes. Rosenstruck.
Okay, so Rosenstruck gets absolutely pummeled. I had to text Minty because that's exactly what happened. And after that, things got a little fuzzy. I'm just going to be honest with you. I haven't got out much lately, so the White Claws got the best of me. Did a couple FaceTime calls with my friends that were also watching the fight. So, you know, that turns into happy hour and all hell just breaks loose. But overall, I thought it was really well put together. Of course, you want fans there because I do think it brings the energy. But to us at home, it doesn't matter because it just was blacked out, right? And the focus was on the cage. Every once in a while on TV, you're going to see the pano of the fans. But for the most part, they don't make as big of a difference to us.
Yeah, exactly. And Gianni, what did you take away from it? You made your Wager Talk clients very happy this weekend, I heard. So congrats.
Yeah, it was a great day for betting. My takeaways are going to be strictly from a betting perspective because, I mean, if you want to take it from an analyst perspective, I think just listen to pro fighters. They know what they're watching. That's why they make the best analysts. They offer the best preview shows. But from a betting perspective, it's a completely different game. You want to listen to guys like us and let females like us that cover it from our angle. Here were my takeaways. Bottom line is this, and I expected this to happen. We saw a huge influx of recreational bettors crashing the party. And usually MMA is already a very soft market. You have bettors that don't bet any other sport. So they're not very well versed in sports betting, and they try to predict fight outcomes. The understanding of finding marketing efficiencies isn't how they're approaching it. And that offers a ton of value for bettors that do look at it that way. Why am I talking about this? Here's why. You're not going to get a ton of value on underdogs until major sports return, because unlike every other sport where there's a point spread, in combat sports, the bias of casual bettors is to bet underdogs. Unlike point spread sports where they bet favorites and over. So what happens? The line on the favorite starts to drop. We saw that last Saturday. Most of the favorites that I gave out that moved up in my favor, leading up to the fight, they started coming back down. And looking in the back end, I can promise you, none of that was sharp money related. And as the fights were going on and bettors were losing money because the favorites were winning early, you started seeing chasing with late dogs over and over again. And it ended up where you had to start betting some of these favorites. So you got to be real cautious. And there's also a ton of value on live betting. I wish there was a way I could share this information, but there's just not enough time in between rounds. I have 1 minute to find the line, get down enough money, and you just can't share that. But again, Hardy was a dog after 2 rounds. Gagey was a dog after 3 rounds. Luque was a dog after 2 rounds. All those fighters, that price was way off. You're going to get a ton of that during this because of the influx of even more recreational bettors. So be cautious going forward. I know we all love the cash underdogs. And we know in MMA, it's out of the major sports, it's the 3rd highest underdogs win, but the market conditions are different right now, and sports books are forced to adjust because of it. And the final tidbit I'm going to give you, and this I would usually keep close to the vest. You don't share this kind, but you'll be able to, hopefully those that understand it can use it going forward in other sports as well. Now, here's what happened with the opening lines last week and in this week. Real quickly, when you see MMA openers, the margins are very big. Here's what I mean. When they open a minus 150 favorite, the dog in a 30 cent line, minus 150 plus 130. That's what they taught us in baseball. Great books make minus 150 plus 140. They have an even tighter margin, which is amazing. Those are the kind of books you want to be betting into. When lines first open in MMA, here's what you see. Minus 150 on the favorite, even money on the underdog. There's that big gap. It's not minus 150 plus 130. It's minus 150 even money. That's a huge difference. So here's what the betting syndicates do to get value. If they want to end up betting the favorite, they start by betting the underdog because it takes very little money to get the price to move in a particular direction. All you have to do is fire $300 bets or $500 bets through labeled sharp accounts, and that line will start moving down towards the favorite. And then you come in and you blast the favorite. That's what they did last week. That's what we're already seeing coming ahead. Last week, I gave a free pick on Krzysztof Jotko for this Saturday. What happened with Jotko? It got dummied down to as low as minus 130, 125, and then steamed up minus 150, 160. Jotko was the side we were looking for from the beginning, but why not bet it at a much better price? So be careful when you see those initial moves because the margins are so huge. That's where all the setups happen. So be cautious. That was my biggest takeaway because I'm already seeing it happening for tonight's card and Saturday. It's a completely different playing field than just a couple months ago when we were betting MMA.
Wow. Okay. Good advice, Gianni. Thank you. Check out Gianni's plays for Wednesday's fight and Saturday's card on wagertalk.com, guys. All right. Like I said earlier, we have a lot to cover since there are 2 events happening in just this week. Let's go over a few matches for tonight's fight, starting with the heavyweight division in the prelims. Andrei Arlovski plus 145 versus Philipe Lins minus 165. Lins is the favorite here, Gianni, and this is his UFC debut. What a first fight it'll be facing the very experienced Andrei Arlovski. Do you like anyone for this one?
Yeah, and give me a second. I have so much information, and 90% of it's numbers, so I just got to refresh. And I'll give you an opinion and any betting information on every single fight. But with that said, I'm very selective on what I bet. and what I back with my own money. Like for tonight, I bet 3 sides. One of them got canceled, Vittori. So I have 2 bets. Hopefully, I'll find some more before fight time, but I'm not pressing. There's just so much value there. In Arlovski and Linz, the first thing you got to look at Arlovski is his age. He's 41 years old now, and we touched on last week, once a fighter crosses 40, they're going to lose 2 out of 3 times they get into the octagon. So you've got to be very selective if you're going to pick that side. But looking at the Linz side, I can't see why he should be this high of a favorite, 170, 175. These are 2 guys from the same, not camp, same gym. They train together. They know each other well. Those fights tend to look like sparring matches when they eventually get into the octagon. This is one of those heavyweight fights where you may find some value with it going the distance. That's where the plus money is. I haven't bet it. If I was forced to bet it, I would probably look towards Arlovski as a dog. But again, not a ton of value there, especially at 41 years old.
VR, you mentioned his age. My question is, though, his opponent, Minty just mentioned, has never fought in the UFC. Do you have anything that's, I know you have all of this insane database, but do you have any information that you could share with our listeners on first-time UFC guys?
I went back and looked at 500 fighters that debuted. This break has given me so much time to do this, to go back and actually find good statistical significance data that we could use moving forward. Here's what I find. Blindly, if you bet every fighter that's making his first UFC debut appearance, you will have lost 56% of your bets. They're at a disadvantage to begin with making their debut. Close to 6 out of 10 times they'll lose that fight. So experience is major, and Arlovski's got tons of that. The only thing you're really going against is age, and possibly a speed advantage. Go ahead.
Sorry. So my question is this: we always talk about it's no matter what sport, you're betting the number here. So I'm looking at an offshore site that I use every once in a while. Minus 195 for Linz, plus 155 for Arlovski. At that point in time, are we starting to see where the math is catching up with maybe he is worth it, even though he is 41 years old?
Yeah, that's where I would look. My only concern is that the way he survived as a heavyweight is because he's been faster using that speed over other heavyweights. And I'm not sure if he's going to have that against a guy 6.5 years younger, and Arlovski slowly but surely, losing a step in that where he has that edge. Again, I couldn't lay this chalk with the favorite. No way. Even if he finishes with first round knockout, I just don't think it's a good bet. But again, not one of those fights that I've bet. And I always say with heavyweights, you got to be cautious. Ton of randomness involved. You don't want to be caught laying heavy chalk unless you feel very confident.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the next one, the heavyweight division for the main card now. Ovince Preux minus 140 versus Ben Rothwell plus 120. OSP is stepping up in weight class. How do you think he fares in this heavyweight division?
Yeah, and he weighed in, I think, a little over 240, so he put on some size. He's still going to be the much smaller guy against Ben Rothwell. That's obvious. Guys moving up, they're usually smaller, but they offset that with an advantage in speed. It's the guys in the weight class right below you're always going to be a little faster than you. You're going to be a little bit bigger. That's the contrast between those two. The problem with OSP is he's had a tendency to gas in the past. Now, that may have to do with the weight cut. Cutting down to 205 may have exacerbated that gassing when he gets to those later rounds. So putting on the extra weight may actually help him here. The problem is both guys have a negative strike differential, and you got to be cautious when you're betting guys like that in the heavyweight division. It shows that they're getting hit too many times, and Rothwell's gotten so slow. Again, it's difficult to lay the chalk with St. Preux. But now that this line's down to minus 130, I think it's OSP or leave it alone. When he was at minus 200, at one point he was minus 215. I understood why Rothwell was getting the money. He should get the money as that big of a dog. But right now that you're looking at OSP minus 130, I think that's the only way to go. I really do. I think you're going to see a lot of money on Rothwell. And that's another one where I'd be cautious. Last week I told you all the money was coming in on Verdum. Be cautious there. It's very chalky, and I don't think it's warranted. Here with Rothwell, I know he may be live as a heavyweight, but you need better plus than 115, 120 if you're going to back him.
Okay, I like it. All right, lastly on the Wednesday card is, of course, the main event. Anthony Smith minus 180 versus Glover Teixeira plus 160. There is an age difference, and as you said, age plays quite a role in this industry. How does 40-year-old Teixeira stack up against 31-year-old Smith?
Here's what I can tell you. The age is so key. And I sound like a broken record, but you got to focus on that because we know, forget the fact that Teixeira's 40 years old, and we already touched on that. They're going to lose 2 out of 3 times. You have a 9+ year age gap. If you blindly just looked at nothing else and said, I'm only going to bet fighters that are 8 years or younger than their opponent, you will have blindly cashed 65% of your tickets. Nothing else. Just if he's 8+ years younger. That's a big advantage to overcome. So again, right away, I'm going to look to the Smith side. But again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but price is always going to matter when you're betting. And Smith minus 175, 185, what you have to conclude is that he wins this fight 70% of the time at least. Because at minus 175, 185, you're already saying my break-even's around 65%. So where's my margin going to be for me to say this is a good bet? My conclusion has to be he wins 70, 75% of the time. And this line should actually be minus 250, 300. No chance. That just should not be the way this is. Again, there's one way Teixeira wins this fight. That's taking Smith to the ground. We know Smith's susceptible to being taken down. The only problem is I had to go back to 2017 to find a fight that Teixeira secured more than one takedown. So again, Smith's susceptible to takedowns. Teixeira's path to victory is via the takedown. His big body of work shows he averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's good. But again, over the last 3 years, he hasn't been able to do much of that. But his last few wins have come via sub. I haven't bet this fight. I think the best bet is that it doesn't go to distance. I think the judges could take a break, take a nap. You're not going to need to score this one. You have 25 minutes, and it ain't going to go that long. But again, I think they priced it high enough where there's no value. I would bet Teixeira inside the distance at plus money, or Teixeira little sprinkle at plus money. And if I was going to bet the favorite, I would bet Smith inside the distance because Smith at minus 185, near 200, even if he goes out there and blows through the 40-year-old Teixeira, that's a terrible bet. And if you continue laying minus 200s on prices that should be minus 140, you're going to go broke soon enough. So, again, the value, I think, is on the dog, but not enough handicapping factors to back that opinion with cash. Not enough support.
Okay, that wraps it up for Wednesday's card. Moving on to Saturday's UFC Fight Night. I think you're a little more excited about this one, Gianni. You said that last week. So let's begin with the welterweight division in the prelims. Matt Brown plus 170 versus Miguel Baeza minus 190. Who are you liking in this one?
Oh, but I was covering the Tuesday Night Contender Series this summer. It was awesome. Got to be around all the fighters and talk to all kind of people and some older fighters. They all come down for Contender Series. Baeza's a stud. That much I can tell you. He's going to have a ton of advantages in this fight. First off, let's look at the age because we've been focusing on that here. You're talking about a Matt Brown that's now 39 years old. Aging veteran against a 27-year-old Baeza. That's a 12-year difference. Now, if you did nothing else, Minty, but said, I'm just going to look at the ages, and I'm going to bet every fighter that's 12 years younger or more than their opponent, you would have cashed 75% of your tickets over the last decade. If you did nothing else.
Wow.
Said, I'm just going to bet fighters that are 12 years younger, and that's it. And you're probably going to make some money doing that, because I don't think they were minus 300 to back them every time, where, minus 300 favorite should 75% win probability should be. Prior to the reason the line actually, it opened minus 170, got bet up to 200. That was sharp money. Public's going to bet this line back down. Why? Because Brown's looked good of late. He comes in. He had 2 wins, even though he's coming in with those 3 straight losses. 3 straight losses. He had those 2 wins by finishing. He's one of those fighters that always gets money. Fan favorite, action fighter. He's gonna, he's willing to go out on his shield, as they say. And that kind of fighter is going to attract money. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think you sit back and you bet the favorite. And you either, if you don't like laying the chalk, then look to bet them, by decision or inside the distance. But again, I don't have any problem laying minus 200 if I think the true line should be minus 300 or time up in a parlay. And I think Baeza's, he's the right side here. This kid's a finisher. The only question is it's a big step up, but I think he's ready for it. And I'm starting to see the decline in Brown. It's Baeza or leave the fight alone.
Okay. All right. Next up in the prelims, the middleweight division, Anthony Hernandez minus 110 versus Kevin Holland minus 110. Basically a pick 'em here. That's telling me these two gentlemen are very similar fighters, but Hernandez only has 1 win and 1 loss, and in the UFC, I mean, while Holland is 3-2. So who has the edge here, Gianni?
Woo! I'll tell you, I actually bet this fight.
Okay.
So you'll get a pick out of this one for me. I bet Hernandez. I bet Hernandez is an underdog, and I actually lay up the minus 110 with that 53% mark. I thought he should have opened as a not significant, but a big enough favorite to keep me off of him. The fact he opened as a dog, I couldn't leave it alone. With Holland opening minus 120, got bet up to minus 125. Listen, Holland's well-rounded. If you look at it, average 1.275 takedowns, positive strike differential when you look at significant strikes, lands almost double what he receives. All good things to look at. But this is a short notice fight, and that is what stuck out the most. And what we already know, fighters on short notice, they don't win all that often. In fact, the short notice fighter only wins around 38% of the time. And I think for Hernandez, that's going to be huge. He doesn't have all that experience as a pro. He's a Dana White Contender Series guy, 26 years old. But he fought 10 times as an amateur, so he got some amateur experience there. He fought in the LFA, so not the biggest promotions, but he has competed against decent opposition. Again, as an underdog, I couldn't pass up Hernandez. Even at the minus 110, I think that's the right side. If you want to, would I bet it now? Probably. What's the current price?
I'm still seeing minus 110, minus 120.
Depending on. It should go up. It really should. But he's not the name here, and I think the public's going to come in on Holland. I would not be surprised if that happens. And to be honest with you, I would bet Hernandez inside the distance as well. I think he finishes Holland here. I think there's going to be some value on the finish.
Me gusta. Okay, on to the main card in the featherweight division. Edson Barboza minus 130 versus Dan Ige plus 110. Ige's won his last 5 fights, and this will be Barboza's first time competing at featherweight division, coming from the lightweight class, I believe. This will be, or will this be, an advantage for Barboza, Gianni?
I got to see Barboza on the scale at 145 before I fire. The problem we have with Saturday's card, I have a couple premium bets I already bet in some positions, but I have a ton of leans that I like that I'm trying to confirm between now and Saturday. The only problem is props didn't come out until this morning. So I haven't had the time to compare the prop lines to the money lines for the fights to see where they mispriced. When I do my models, I use the round over under and the money line to yes or no as far as the distance as the exponent. Guys that do sabermetrics understand what I'm talking about, because if you use the Major League Baseball total for the game as your exponent, instead of the given number they just use across the board, you'll find a much more accurate implied win probability. So without that, I just didn't have the confidence to fire yet. But the way I look at this is to Barbosa. We got a 4-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage. The experience alone, you got to give to Barbosa the edge. Why I think you'll get some betting value is you look at his record over his last 5. He's only won once. He's 1-4 in his last 5, Barbosa. But let's look at who he lost to. He lost to Khabib. He lost to Gagey. He lost to Paul Felder. And he lost to Kevin Lee. Wow. Those are top 10 guys. Yeah. Every single night, if not top 5 guys on any given night. And he's not getting blown away. So again, Ige, he's younger at only 28 years old. I like that. Right. He comes in with 5 straight wins. There's confidence there. I like that. But it wasn't against elite opposition. If he could get Barbosa down and keep him there, he's going to grind out this fight and win it. But if he doesn't, it's going to be a long evening for him. I'm sitting back. I want to see if this line continues to drop. Open 140. I saw as low as minus 125 at one point. I haven't bet it yet. If I have to bet it, it's Barbosa or leave it alone. I see a lot of love for Ige as a dog. I can't blame you, but I think it's Barbosa's fight to lose. But I want to see how he looks on that scale at 145 before I back him. Yeah.
Okay. In the women's strawweight, we've got Cláudia Gadelha at minus 185 versus Angela Hill plus 165. Gadelha has been a little inconsistent lately, and Hill has won 3 straight. Who are you going with here? Is there any value on the dog here?
There really isn't. Angela Hill is going to get a ton of money from betting public, because how can you not love the girl? She fought 4 times in 2019. She went 2-2. She's already fought twice in 2020. So since January of 2019, she's fought 6 times. She's walking in for the 7th time. That's amazing, but it's a little too regular for me. You need breaks. You really do. And I think that actually favors Gadelha. We know what's going to happen. Angela Hill needs to keep this fight standing to have any chance of winning. It looks like she has a great takedown defense at 72% and that she could get it done. But if you look at Cláudia, she's an animal when she gets you to the ground. And even though it only shows her takedown percentage is only 47%, she averages 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. She will get you to the ground. And when I was doing the UFC Fight Pass show, I was asking Tyron Woodley. We were doing a production meeting, and I brought up a fighter's stat on grappling and said, wow, he seems to secure takedowns, but his percentage is terrible. And Woodley told me, don't even look at that. That's irrelevant if he actually secures the takedown. It's different if he averages 27% and 0.35 takedowns. Then he's terrible. But if he only averages 35% takedowns, but 3 or 4 per 15 minutes, then that just means this guy's tenacious. And he's going to keep coming at you and keep coming at you. And that is the most tiring thing, is trying to keep these wrestlers off you and upright. So don't let that low percentage keep you off of, Cláudia, and think that Hill with 72% is going to be able to keep this upright the whole night. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cláudia takes her to the ground. And I think she has her way with her, man. She's fought nothing but top-level opposition since coming out of that Nova União. She's the classic Nova União fighter from Brazil. And I'm a big fan of Angela Hill. I see the attraction as an underdog. I just don't see her winning this fight.
Ooh, okay. Well, now for the main event of the night in the heavyweight bout, we've got Alistair Overeem plus 140 versus Walt Harris minus 160. Who do you like winning, and do you think this fight goes the distance?
I would be surprised if it goes the distance. It's a heavyweight fight. Just blindly, they usually don't. I mean, 7 out of 10 times, somewhere around there. But it's minus 350 not to go to distance, so it's priced right. The line on Harris has been staying right around that 160, 155 range. I'd be surprised if that moves too much. Walt Harris, the story, he's going to be the sentimental favorite here. We all know the story with the daughter, how it's hard to root against him in his return. It's almost impossible to root against the guy. But as a bettor, that's the only way I can look at this fight. I mean, listen, Overeem may be 39 years old, but Harris is 36. It's not like he's a young guy. And then Overeem's going to have that reach advantage. He has over 60 professional fights. He may be 4-4 over his last 8. And his last 4 losses have come by knockout, which is never good, especially when you're a heavyweight. That means you took some damage. But it was against Rosenstruck, against Blades, against Ngannou. Those are some heavy hitters, some big guys. Harris is up there, but he is not, an Ngannou. At plus money, I got to look to Overeem, man, as a live dog. He uses his movement more. He's not staying stationary. It's just a matter of, has he taken too much damage, and is he chinny? What kind of damage can he take before the lights go out? And that's what you start questioning with fighters who their last so many losses are all by finish. Is it that switch go off too fast? I'm not too sure yet. He was lasting 4 rounds and almost the entire 5th round when he got finished in his last fight. So for me, I like Overeem here as a live dog. I didn't bet it, again, just like I hadn't bet Cláudia, but that's the only way I could look at this fight.
Wow. Okay. Kelly, is there anything interesting in the chat? I hear you typing away.
I am typing away. I'm currently fighting with Johnny Detroit because Drew Martin said, hi, Kelly and Minty. And I said, hi, Drew. And Johnny got butthurt. Per usual. Prez will like that Drew. One. Lots of Wager Talk people. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Andrew. Everybody's in the chat saying hello. Nick is there. Says, Gianni is the man. All right. So I don't really have a lot of questions for VR lined up. As he mentioned, the props just came out. We have a lot of stuff that we go over during the week. I promise to pass along everything he tells me on Twitter because I know he's a busy guy. So I'll make sure to share with you guys. I don't see any other specific questions in the chat other than just some really funny banter back and forth.
I love it. I love the chat. All right, friends.
Yes, Prez.
Okay, so here's my question to you, Gianni. I'm watching the fight Saturday night, and I see you on the promo for the UFC, which, by the way, is so impressive. Congratulations on that. Why do you look so good on the promos for the UFC? And although you're an 8 out of 10 on our shows, you're a 10 out of 10 on theirs.
Makeup.
Yeah, Prez.
Makeup, lighting, camera angles.
Hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
Editing. Totally editing.
You hear that,
Okay,
Prez?
fine. So what I'm hearing from you, Minty, is we need to get full-time makeup artist.
Yeah, I think Kelly asked that, not me.
But Gianni, it's unbelievable,
Yeah,
man, that you are affiliated with the UFC.
Thank you. Their first contracted betting
I
special.
shouldn't have said that, VR. I'm already getting texts from people. What did you guys play? What are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, okay. Did you guys just miss the whole last 40 minutes of the show?
Yeah, rewatch it.
On a serious note, VR, you said your 4% play did get canceled for tonight, correct? But you do still have one available for Saturday. Up at Wager Talk, I'm already on it. I logged in the back end. I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready to have another really awesome week. It was nice to wake up Sunday morning with a hangover, but also with an extra couple $1,000 in my pocket. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Yeah. You know, hit me up anytime like I do you. I don't like to offer my stuff to people. You know what I mean? Like, just send people my picks unless they ask me. I feel like I'm like forcing it on them.
No, it's perfect. And it also helps me look at reasonings why you played stuff and why you play stuff late, as you mentioned, how the market moves. He might not have had value at minus 190, but now the Publix came in, bet the dog, and now you're laying 160, and it's a good bet.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right, friends. Well, that's all the time we have. Be sure to check out Gianni's client plays on wagertalk.com. For Saturday, he's got one loaded already for the Eric Anders, Christoph Jocko fight, right? Gianni, that's the one.
Yeah, I didn't give him. Yeah, I'll give him free plays. I don't mind. I mean, here, I'll give him a free premium for tonight and for Saturday. Yeah, they tuned in. Why not? Again, but be cautious. I mean, yeah, I crushed it last week, having a great year in MMA, a great year overall. Won the last few years, but it isn't easy. You're not going to win every time. And anyone that tells you that it's easy, they're lying to you. Anyone screaming about how great they are because they're up this for this last 4 weeks, or just ask them what they did last year or the year before that, the year before that. Because unless they started betting last week, it really shouldn't matter. So again, I don't mind sharing my premium stuff, but bet it cautiously because we win long term, not every night out. Here's one for tonight: Morales over Benítez. I bet that because it did just what Kelly touched on. It got dummied down. Morales opens minus 215, gets bet down all the way to minus 145, which was small $300 limit bets, and then we blasted the Morales side. He's been scheduled to fight for a while against a guy on short notice. We've got the reach advantage. I don't need to break it down for you, but there's just so much there to like. There's a free pick for you, Morales tonight. And then Saturday, I already gave you Jocko, that same exact example. Got dummied down to 135. That's what people pay me for. I gave it out at minus 135. He's now up to minus 160. So I'm sorry if the value may be gone there. So if not, bet Song Yadong. Why not? He's only minus 180. That'll come down because Chito Vera is going to get a ton of action. Yadong, 22 years old, doesn't get the respect he deserves, hasn't lost in the UFC except for that one no contest. Very winnable fight for him. Should be a minus 250 favorite. Again, I wish I could give you a plus 300 underdog that jumps off the board and is going to cash for you tonight. But nothing's really jumping off the board like that. So value is trying to get the best of it. Sometimes it's not going to be an underdog. You know, maybe Moras tonight plus 300. She may cash, but I'm not just seeing any big dogs jumping out at me.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay, Gianni. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. And thanks for coming back. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to Wager Talk TV on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Wager Talk. Be